And you're watching the Fightlete Report podcast. Make sure to check out fightlete.com for all exclusive MMA content, interviews, articles, and more. And Mike Finch, of course, join us. He is the Hoosier Fight Club commentator, and we have not seen HFC for quite some time, but we'll get on here and talk about UFC this weekend, UFC 254, which I'm excited about. Probably one of the bigger events this year, but it's actually been a fun year of UFC. If you think about it, where, you know, towards the beginning, knowing how they're going to pull it off, and they have. I think they've done about at least 20 to 30 events so far.
Yeah, Dana really looked at it as a challenge. I think Dana White really saw this as an opportunity for the UFC to grow because one of the things that the UFC has to do is just compete with other sports and other time slots. So if, the Super Bowl's going on, if, certain big events are going on, that's a factor into their dates. And they came back before anybody else. And as he always says, he knew they could do it. They were the right sport to do it. And, big props to Dana for having that vision. He did it at a time when it was not politically convenient. It was very much criticized, and he's been able to do it relatively safely, and it's been extremely successful for the UFC. I think the fighters all appreciate having an opportunity to make money, to go out and live their life and perform. I mean, yes. This all started with 2 weeks to stop the spread, if you remember that, and now we're moving closer to 2 years to stop the spread here. So I mean, it's bizarre times for sure, but the UFC's been a machine. They've been able to push through it, and they're all the better for it.
Yeah, I think that this time it's tough without the fans. Obviously, UFC's had to eat in that, but when we look at where it's trending, UFC is huge. Like, we had Joaquin Buckley. That was that kick. You saw that kick, right? I wanted to get your opinion on that kick before we get into UFC 254. But that kick alone, that video is the highest rated video. It has more viewership than any other video, including anything to do with Conor McGregor. So wow. That alone is insane. Mm-hmm. It was all over ESPN, highlights and everything. And a pretty relatively unknown fighter. This was his UFC debut, I believe. So, or he was like maybe one fight in, but that alone is crazy. And it shows you UFC and the fans are on the pulse of this thing, literally. That they can share share the views on this fight, and it can really go viral.
Yeah, that kick was pretty incredible, right? Just a classic position where you throw a kick, somebody else catches it, and clearly something that he's trained to perfection. And the level of athleticism he was able to show, the level of explosiveness he was able to show to execute that's not something that the average person doing Muay Thai is able to do. Very advanced technique and executed to perfection. I guarantee you that won't be the last one we see in the UFC, because just like back when, if you remember when Anderson Silva front kicked Vitor Belfort in the face. We saw a lot more front kicks to the face after that. I think this will be a similar situation where now every gym's going to be training this, and this will be something to look out for every time somebody catches a roundhouse kick.
Definitely, yeah. It's going to be exciting to see, what they're going to innovate next. And that fighter, he's set for another fight. Actually, he's scheduled for another fight right away, so that's pretty cool. Let's get into UFC 254, and we'll go over the top 3 or 4 fights. So the first fight I have to talk about is Alexander Volkov and Walt Harris. This is an exciting fight, man. I mean, Volkov is coming after a nasty loss to Curtis Blades. Obviously, Curtis Blades real well.
Yep.
You've seen him backstage at HFC. He's part of the Chicago MMA family. Walt Harris, on the other hand, is a tough dude, but just lost to Overeem. So something has to give. I don't see this fight going to decision. I think it's going to be a quick fight. They're going to throw hands right away. Who do you have winning this one?
Wow, really tough fight to pick. I think Walt Harris presents a lot of problems. If Walt Harris can get a hold of Volkanovski, I really think that's where it all begins and ends, because I think Volkanovski has his best opportunity just staying long, kickboxing in this fight. Sort of fighting like Alexander Gustafsson likes to fight, real long. And man, I remember the first time I met Alexander Volkanovski, it was in Bellator, and he was competing. I believe it was the Rampage King Mo card, and we were in Memphis, Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. And standing next to this guy, it's like you're standing next to the big friendly giant. I mean, this guy is extremely long, extremely tall. If he can use that reach, if he could stay on the outside, his kickboxing is excellent. He's had some bumps in the road, of course. Although, it's hard to call Curtis Blades a bump in the road. Really, Curtis Blades is a top contender in the UFC and, will be a entitled contention in maybe his next fight. I mean, he's right up there on the cusp of getting a title shot. Curtis Blades is extremely dominant once he gets a hold of you, gets on top of you, and his striking is so much better now. So, beyond those types of fights, I mean, again, he had the Derek Lewis fight where I thought Volkanovski was winning that fight. He was doing well, got hit with a big shot. Props to Derek Lewis for finding that big right hand. And, but Volkanovski's kickboxing, I still don't doubt. I think Volkanovski will put it together and win a decision by staying on the outside, kicking the legs, letting his hands go a little more in this fight. And hopefully we see some more speed and timing from Volkanovski, because that's what I was seeing from him in Bellator. In Bellator, his striking was sharp. He's a guy who I haven't seen really fight, I think, at his full potential yet. And, hopefully we start to see that evolution in Volkanovski.
Definitely. I'm actually going with Walt Harris on this one, so I'm going against you. I think that Walt Harris is just, everything we've seen so far, he's really dynamic, really explosive, and I think that he's going to be wearing his heart on his sleeve, man. He wanted to get that last victory, obviously, for his daughter-in-law was deceased. I think it's going to happen this time against Volkanovski, who's really tough, and everything that you mentioned about Volkanovski, if he puts it together, if he gets more accurate, it could be a tough night for Walt. I think Walt is going to use the takedowns. I think he's going to use aggressiveness, but also, know when to back off. And I think Walt Harris gets this fight by decision.
Yeah, no question that if he can get on top in this fight, that's his recipe to domination. I mean, Walt Harris is a big man, very physical, much stronger than Volkanovski. If he could put that together, that'll be his recipe for success.
Totally. The next fight we have to go look at is Whittaker, Cannonier. I know you're going to have a lot to talk about with this one.
Good fight.
I know you're excited to see both of these guys get in there and fight. It's huge. It's going to be a huge fight. So middleweight division, obviously, this is maybe a number one contendership, especially for Cannonier. For Whittaker, he may have to do a bit more than just win. He may have to really go in there and knock him out, and then he would get the shot at Eddie Sanya for the number one contendership. But these are two guys that are definitely in the prime of their career, and I really like both of them. How do you see this one going down?
Man, striker versus striker. This is a good fight, man. Cannonier, he's really the guy who seems to be next. He's really the guy who seems to be next for Adesanya. Adesanya calls him the dark horse of the middleweight division, and that seems to be true, man. I think so highly of Hermansson, and the way that Cannonier just put Hermansson away, this guy is very dangerous. Great striker, extremely powerful puncher and kicker and knees and elbows and everything. I really think that if he could put it on Whittaker in the first round, he might be able to get him out of there. And it's an extremely dangerous fight for Whittaker, but when is Whittaker not in a dangerous fight, man? Look at his wars with Yoel Romero. Look at his wars with, look, the resume is really impressive with Whittaker as well. It really depends to me on which Robert Whittaker we get. He was extremely dominant up until that Israel Adesanya fight. As far as just extremely dominant might be the way to not be the way to put it, because he had very close fights with Yoel Romero, but extremely consistent, I should say. Very consistent performer, always shows up, very mentally strong. And we saw some holes in his game against Adesanya. He was kind of running in there, and he started to adjust against Darren Till and got that first fight back under him. And I really think because of that Darren Till fight, he now has set himself up to win this Cannonier fight and kind of spoil the middleweight division. I don't know that the UFC is waiting on this fight to see what they're going to do with Adesanya, but it would make sense that perhaps if Whittaker wins, they lean towards the John Jones Israel Adesanya fight, and if Cannonier wins, it would make sense that they keep Adesanya at 185 and put him against Cannonier. So a lot of title implications, a lot of chess pieces are going to move depending on the winner of this fight. And what a great matchup for the fans, man. No matter what, the fans will win this fight because these two are going to, I think, kickbox and decide this fight on the feet.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Whittaker in wars. This is what potentially this could be. I mean, you're alluding to, what we could book next. These two may need a break like 6 months after this fight, for all we know. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It may be
Right.
that brutal of a fight. And I'm anticipating, like you said, they're both dynamic strikers. I would just say that the fact that Cannonier hasn't been finished at middleweight, that really speaks volumes. And Jared Cannonier is also taking a lot of tough guys as well. Obviously like Anderson Silva and David Branch, and obviously the Silva fight didn't go the way it's supposed to, but these guys have knockout power, and he survived and finished them. Even Jack Hermanson, he has knockout power too. I think since he went to middleweight, he really has displayed the speed, the accuracy, but just is good for this weight class. You know what I mean? It was more of a natural fit for him. And against Robert Whittaker, a guy who's been through wars, you got to wonder if those wars add up, if they take a toll. You know what I mean? And obviously, Dominic Reyes knocked out Jared Cannonier, but that was a couple of years ago as well. But you got to wonder if those wars have really taken a toll. And that's why I think that I have Jared Cannonier with this fight. I think he's going to edge out Robert Whittaker. It's not going to be a lack of trying at all for Whittaker. I think he's game. And listen, he could still come out and prove us wrong again, But I think that he's definitely going to be number one contender as Cannonier after this one.
Yeah, Robert Whittaker in wars and also going through injuries. If you remember that first Adesanya fight where Adesanya ended up fighting Anderson Silva, with the rib injury. I mean, he's gone through a lot. You're right. The way I see this fight playing out, I would say either Robert Whittaker wins a decision where he's more active than Cannonier, or I see Cannonier knocking him out. So it would be either Cannonier by KO or Whittaker by decision. Don't bet on this fight, guys. We certainly don't know what's about to happen when these two beasts step in the cage.
I'm going to go with knockout by Cannonier, but we don't know what's going to happen. So that's not a safe bet at all.
Fair pick, man. That guy is a beast. And like Israel says, and Israel's got a real eye for striking. I mean, he's a professional kickboxer, over 100, showings as a kickboxer. And he sees, the skill level and the danger that Cannonier presents. I think it's better for the division if Cannonier wins this fight.
Definitely. I think it's going to be an exciting one. And then we have to get to the main event, of course. This is why we're here after all those two monster fights. Khabib and Gaethje, of course, for the lightweight title, and Khabib is going to defend that belt. We haven't seen him in action for over a year. So it's just highly anticipated. And there's so many factors that we don't know what's going on, with him being overseas in Russia, not being able to be at Team AKA for this camp, and also the fact that his father, the senior, passed away, and that's really sad to hear. So I just got to see where his head is at for this fight. That's the question.
Definitely. I mean, Khabib is a champion. Khabib is, very experienced. He's been in the bright lights. He's had the McGregor fight. He's defended the title against Poirier. And, Khabib has been under these bright lights, and he's competed in pressure situations like this before. So I think, regardless of the unfortunate situation with losing his father, I believe Khabib is focused for this fight. I think he'll be there mentally. The question for me is the timing, the feel of everything. For those of us that just watched Lomachenko lose to Teofimo Lopez over the weekend, last weekend, Lopez was, it had a little bit of a layoff, but it was more so that the champion that Loma had not fought in over a year, and he had never done that before in his career. And Khabib, a guy who's dealt with injuries and come back, maybe has a little more experience with those layoffs. McGregor, as you know, has made a big fuss about how little Khabib fights and how much he pulls out of fights and whatnot due to injuries and whatnot, of course, in the past. But still, ring rust is real, man. Ring rust is real. Unless you're talking to Dominic Cruz, who doesn't believe in ring rust, I really believe in it. And I think that there is a slight advantage in that specific regard for Gaethje, because he's more fresh coming off of that Tony Ferguson fight. That was his big fight. That was for a title. That was a main event fight, and he dominated it. And it gave him confidence. And he's rolling right off of that coming into this world title fight, the biggest fight of the year, perhaps, for the UFC. And, it's really, really remarkable that Khabib has been out for a year, and that Khabib is coming in against a very tough stylistic challenge. So on that specific topic between these two, you would have to give the advantage to Gaethje for momentum coming into this fight. Again, you know, Khabib is undefeated. Khabib has hardly lost rounds in his career. But, you know, when you're out for over a year, you're stepping in with another wrestler who's got great hands. I just think there might be a feeling out process for Khabib. I think, you know, we could see Khabib lose the first round of this fight.
That's very possible. And I think Khabib is a guy that just, you know, once he puts the pedal to the metal, he doesn't stop, man. He has got a great gas tank. You know, I mean, unbelievable amount of energy he has. Like, he wasn't even sucking wind in the fight with McGregor, but some McGregor, he was gassing pretty hard. So I have to see what happens with Justin. I really thought he fought brilliantly against Ferguson, and that style fight helped him, I believe, in many ways. I'm just saying, I think that Ferguson, the way he engaged him, the way he was a bit lax at times, Gaethje was able to read him perfectly, and I felt like that was a fight for him to win. This one's going to be a much different fight, but for Justin Gaethje, again, it's the hard work he's put in. You know, I'm just saying that, not that Ferguson was no pushover. It's the hard work and the discipline he has, you know, working with Trevor Whitman, working on, you know, really being the best striker in this division as to offer, and he has. He showed it, and also, you know, he took his old style and kind of adapted it to where it needed to be. You know, he's still tough, he's still aggressive, but he's not going to just walk right through punches with his head forward. You know what I mean? Like we used to see him at World Series of Fighting. He's a much more technical fighter now, and I just believe this style was a nightmare for Ferguson. Just unfolding in front of our eyes.
Yeah, the way he was able to step back, Sean, the way he was able to not continually follow up. What it seemed like to me before that Tony Ferguson fight was that Justin Gaethje would walk right into some elbows. He did not do that. He decided to hit him and then come right back. And that's credit to Trevor Whitman. That's credit to the world-class team that they have over there. And I think they're very prepared also for this Khabib fight. Important to note that Khabib fight is a totally different stylistic matchup. Who is the better wrestler in this fight? You have to say Khabib. Who is going to be able to get some takedowns in this fight? I would be hard-pressed to say that Gaethje is going to try to take Khabib down. I think Khabib is the one shooting in this fight. Khabib's going to get some takedowns. Khabib's going to get off a little bit, and it's going to depend on whether or not Gaethje can land on him consistently, and put punches, enough punches together to win rounds, win exchanges, maybe get a TKO. I would say for Justin Gaethje, he wants to let his hands go in this fight and also be A1 on defending takedowns. Hard to do both for sure. And if you heard him at the press conference, he wants to throw lots of leg kicks. And by kicking the legs, sometimes you give up takedowns. Justin Gaethje, of course, has some of the craziest leg kicks in MMA. If you see the close range in which he throws those leg kicks, much different than other guys. So, you know, Gaethje is a special matchup for Khabib. I think it'll be a tough fight for Khabib. I just don't see Khabib having too much of an issue once he gets Gaethje on the fence. In open cage, it's going to be very tough to take Gaethje down. If Gaethje keeps his distance, that'll be a good thing. But with Gaethje trying to throw kicks, with Gaethje trying to engage a lot, let his punches go, I think when he throws combinations to plant his feet, that's going to play right into Khabib's game. I think Khabib will start getting those takedowns, start wearing on him. This one might go to a decision. This could easily be more of an Al Iaquinta Khabib fight. So my pick in this fight, I'm going to go with Khabib by decision. But damn, what a matchup, and what a dogfight we're about to see. I cannot wait for Saturday. I think that this will be the most competitive fight of Khabib's career.
I think so as well. I'm just excited for all the things you mentioned. I would just say that Justin, I feel like what his key is going to be have to constantly reset. Reset, maybe, you know, run away a little bit and reset. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in this fight. But when it comes to like the wrestling of Khabib and those takedowns, Justin Gaethje has got to make sure he doesn't give those up. You know, like his percentage of takedowns that he's giving up, he can't let that drop below 50%. Then it's just going to be discouraging, and Khabib's going to have his way like he has his way of every other fighter in there. But
This matchup, Sean, this was one where I was hoping I would see it. When I was thinking about what are the toughest matchups for Khabib at lightweight, you'd think Justin Gaethje, but it was at a time where Gaethje was nowhere near a title shot. Sure enough, the Khabib fight and the Khabib and Tony fight blows up. Justin Gaethje steps in and beats Tony Ferguson. Now we get to see this crazy stylistic matchup, man. I love this fight. Lightweight is such a deep division, and finally we get to see Khabib fight another world-class wrestler who also is a great MMA fighter. Khabib has good striking for sure. I just have to give the power edge and even maybe a durability edge to Justin Gaethje. The wrestling, there's no better wrestler in lightweight history than Khabib, maybe MMA history than Khabib. And of course, you know, when Khabib gets people on the fence, he'll dominate them, he'll take them down, he'll maul them, he'll put one hook in, trap that far wrist in the Dagestani handcuff and pound you. And I just don't think that he's going to be able to do that consistently in this fight. And I certainly don't think he'll be able to do it easily in the first round. Khabib was saying that Justin Gaethje is very dangerous in the first round because he starts fast. That's true, and I look forward to seeing that. Sean, I wish I didn't have to let you go, but I got to go work at UFC Gym Huntington Beach, bro.
Oh, no worries, man. I appreciate you.
Glad we got it in, brother.
Mike Finch, check him out. Make sure to follow him on Instagram. And the only thing last I was going to say is we do have Michael Chandler in UFC, so that's pretty crazy to think about it. Or we're with him at Bellator 242. Right. 248, 228 a couple of years ago. So that's pretty cool to see that as well. And
they should make the him and Islam fight. I love that fight. Dana turned that one down. I think him and Islam's a perfect fight. Set that one up.
For sure. All right, Mike, I'll let you go. Take it easy, brother.
My man. Thank you, guys. Mike Finch MMA on Instagram. Check out my YouTube channel. I'm going to put out a breakdown for this fight, too. Sean, thank you for having me on, brother. Always good to see you.
Take care. You too, brother.